Today is Tuesday the 5th of November and you're listening to an Antonov 12 landing at Dublin Airport, owned by an airline called Kavok Airline, which are based in the Ukraine and fly 7 of these beautiful aircraft. That particular plane now was built 52 years ago, and they have 7 of them in their fleet out of 1,248 that were built since their first flight in the 1950s. Beautiful smoky engines. I think they run them on turf rather than aviation fuel. And thanks to a plane spotters group that do live streaming, and in fact you can just about see the chaps there standing on the ladder, the ones that do the streaming. So it's thanks to them that I found out that this particular aircraft was landing in Dublin Airport today, and believe it or not, 3 of them actually landed on Sunday. And it is believed that during the last storms, a Turkish airline had a tail strike, and so it's flying in parts for this particular aircraft. Now this is a Ryanair flight coming in from Amsterdam, and which is Boeing 737. So I'll watch this one come in, and then I'd like to do is take a little detour to actually the end of the runway and watch them where they fly overhead. I found this little gate, which is a great place to view them. But Antonov is a magnificent aircraft, and interesting to note that with the design of it, it has a position for a tail gunner. So the Antonov 12 is supposed to be the equivalent of the American Hercules regarding transport aircraft, and if you feel like hiring one, it probably costs you in the region of $10,000 per hour. Right, I'm going to pause this here now and head down to my favourite spot at the end of the runway. How about that now? What a cracking spot to watch the planes. This is just at the back of the airport here. I also meant to mention that CAVOK is actually an abbreviation for Cloud and Visibility OK, CAVOK. But what a great spot here. Airbus 320. Right, we have another airplane rolling here now. It's nice to see the domestic scene in front there with the cattle eating hay. 32 million passengers go through Dublin Airport every year. It's not bad for a medium-sized airport, and Mr. O'Leary would like to get it up to 36. I'd like to add as well my interest in aviation. I've always had an interest in military history and aircraft, but I also met three very interesting people when I was a child. One of them was a man called General Adolf Galland, who shot down 103 Allied aircraft during the Second World War. He was General of Fighters, and he was also involved in the setting up of the jet fighter squadron using the Me-262 at the end of the war. And I met him here in 1980 when he was giving a lecture on what became known as the Channel Dash, where he was in charge of providing air cover to get the three heavy cruisers out into the Atlantic from Brest, which was the Scharnhorst, the Nesno and the Prinz Eugen. And he published a book, the first and the last, which was published in 1955 with an introduction by Douglas Bader. And Douglas Bader and himself became great friends and used to play golf together. And interesting, one part of the book details when Bader was actually taken prisoner, that they had to fly out a set of spare legs for him to, so they dropped it from an airplane. Unfortunately, they did it during the bombing run, which the Germans didn't find very sporting, because they had given permission that any aircraft that wanted to come in and drop off his spare set of false legs would be unharmed. The second gentleman I met was a fellow called Wrongway Corrigan, and he flew a Curtiss monoplane from Los Angeles to New York, and because at the time there were so many fatalities involved with people flying the Atlantic, that you needed a permit and a license to fly. So Corrigan applied for a license, which he didn't get, and so he flew from Los Angeles to New York and then headed back, allegedly from New York, but headed out into the Atlantic instead. And I think it was 28 hours later he landed in Ireland, but he was forever known as Wrongway Corrigan. And I met him in 1988 on the 50th anniversary of him making that flight. He wore the same leather jacket, and I'd never met a man. He had yellow hands, but that was from washing his hands in iodine. There's just one of the regional planes going out now. But he took the secret as to whether he made a mistake or not to his grave, and he was also involved in Lindbergh's flight of 1927, building the Spirit of St. Louis, and or St. Louis, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And the third gentleman I met was a man called Wing Commander Ken Wallace, who flew the autogyro in the James Bond film Little Nelly. And I've always liked the idea of an autogyro rather than a helicopter, which has its own free turning rotor, which provides lift rather than a powered blade like in a helicopter. But a very accomplished pilot, flew hundreds of different types of aircraft, and I think he passed away in about the year, he was well into his 90s when he passed away, and did a couple of air shows here in Ireland. So that would have been some of the people I'd met who helped me in my interest to aviation, and I have all three of their autographs. So So I'm going to pause this now and see if we can catch another one before we head off. It's funny, I noticed just before the plane took off there, a white heron flew by. A lovely egret. So depending on how long the Cavach's going to be in in Dublin Airport, I'm going to say good afternoon, good luck and God bless, and I hope Trump gets in. I really do. I think we need a stabilising hand, and hopefully the effects and ripples of that will spread internationally, including ending the conflict in Ukraine. I can't see Ukraine getting any more money with Trump as president, and hopefully peace talks will develop. And interestingly, he was the first US president since the signing of the Federal Reserve Act in December 1912 never to have dropped a bomb on another country. Good afternoon, good luck, and well, that was worth the wait.